Good morning, everyone. We're here with Erin Smith from the Orange Public Library. She's our Youth Services Librarian, and she's here to give us some tips and information on early literacy.
All right, hi everyone. You probably recognize me from, maybe story time or some of our other children's programs around here. What you might not know, though, is that I have a master's degree in library science and also a lot of early childhood experience. I've been both a foster parent and a daycare worker, and I've worked with a lot of different kids and helped them along in their development. So I've got a PowerPoint I'm going to share with you today. Let's see if we can get that up. And there we go. Okay. Before we can talk about early literacy, I think we need to talk a little bit about just plain old literacy. Very briefly speaking, literacy is the ability to read and write and to understand written communication. And this is a really important skill for people to have moving through their lives. There's so many places that you need to read. You need to read traffic signs. You probably need to read menus when you go out to eat. You probably need to read at your job. You need to read emails from your family, text messages. There's just a lot of written words out there in our lives, and the more skill we have with reading, the better off we're going to be. Now your little guy, 0 to 3, 0 to 5, not really quite ready to be reading yet. You might hear occasionally about some child who has learned to read very proficiently at the age of 3, but that is not the typical experience. And even if you really want that to happen, your 3-year-old's probably not going to be able to do that. But there's a lot of things that need to happen before your kids can become literate. And so we're going to talk today about early literacy. And early literacy, very, kind of briefly, is kind of split into these two areas. We're working on things that will build understanding that words have meanings. Written words in a book, on a menu, on a shopping list, wherever they're written, they've got a meaning. And we can build the understanding in kids that even if they can't read what this says, they know it means something. And then in addition to that, there's going to be some basic, like fine motor skills that kids are going to need to be able to write. And there's going to be some skills that they need to be able to read, like turning the pages. That is a fine motor skill. When we work on early literacy, we're working on things that will help kids develop both of those skills. I've got a whole list here of different kinds of activities that you can be doing with your kids that will help build these early literacy skills, build that really great foundation so that later when they are learning to read it and write, they're going to be champs at it. A lot of these activities you probably already do with your kids, but it's kind of a little easy to kind of pass over and think it's just play, but it's play, it's fun, but it can also help build these early literacy skills. So I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that I'm going to say read to your kids. There's a lot, that kids get out of it when you read to them. They're understanding that, oh, there's these shapes and these squiggles in this book, and they make this story. Mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or whoever's taking care of me is reading these shapes, and they create the story. They're also learning, how to turn the pages. They're learning you're going to read from left to right and from top to bottom. And besides that, you're also building a relationship with your kid. That's a great thing to do, to be close to them, to be working with them on something. So reading, excellent thing to do with your kid. Even if you've got, a book with no words in it, you can make up a story. Doesn't matter. There's still plenty of benefits in making up a story when you're reading to your kids. Kind of also in this category, we're going to talk about singing, narrating, and conversing with your kids, and even drawing. And some nursery rhymes. So first let's talk about singing and nursery rhymes, because they kind of go together. So singing and reciting nursery rhymes is a great activity to do with your kids, because the structure of these things, the shape of them, is really going to emphasize sentence structure. So, you know, like when you're singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, you're going to go twinkle, twinkle, little star. And on that star, you know, we know we're kind of at the end of the phrase, but we can hear in the music that we're not all the way at the end of this idea. And so, you know, it continues, how I wonder what you are. And when you get to that R, you feel that resolution in the music, and it matches up with that end of the sentence. And so later on, when your kids are learning to read and write, it's really tricky to figure out punctuation. But if they've got this basis where they've kind of heard these emphasized phrasings in the music, you know, that will build into their skill of understanding punctuation and breaks between sentences and paragraphs and things later on. Same kind of goes with nursery rhymes. There's not always, you know, a tune like that, but there's this rhyming structure. There's a rhythm and a rhyming structure that also serve to highlight, underline that sentence structure. And then even just conversing with your kids, narrating what you're doing throughout the day. Oh, I'm going to make lunch now. I think these peas look good for a snack. I'm gonna pick up these toys and put them away. You're connecting words to meanings when you're doing that kind of narrating. You can also, you know, hold a conversation with your kid, even if they're not old enough to have any words to talk back to you. You can get that dialogue going. Just kind of making stuff up, pretending your kid is making a response, as long as they're making eye contact, some kind of facial expression, and are engaged with you that way. What they're going to pick up from that is this like back and forth structure that later on, when you're reading, or writing, you might have two characters in a story. I know we all love the piggy and elephant stories. You know, having that foundation of the structure of a conversation is going to help understand what's going on later on when they're reading or writing those kinds of things. We've also got drawing on our list here. Drawing, painting, cutting, these different activities that usually toddlers, preschoolers, they really love to do. They're excellent things that are going to build on those fine motor abilities needed to turn pages, to write later on. You know, even if it's just drawing scribbles, you know, that foundation of learning how to hold a pencil, how to hold a crayon or a marker, you know, seeing, oh, if I move my hand this way, that's the kind of shape I get. It's going to be, you know, a good foundational skill later on when you need to learn how to write a few letters with a pencil. Same thing with cutting. It's a different action than you're going to need for drawing, but it's building those muscles in the hands in a different way. So, you know, like when you're exercising and you want to work out your whole body, you need to work out your arms, your legs, your abs, you know, these different pieces to make your body strong. So when you're getting your muscles ready to learn how to write, you don't want only, you know, to be working one way. So that cutting skill, painting, working some Play-Doh, smushing it, all these different little fine motor activities are going to build different muscle groups in the hands, make the kids, you know, have a really great readiness to start writing well. I've got Play-Doh, silly putty, slime. You know, that one you might not think, okay, this is not really, you know, like a motion they're gonna need for writing, but Play-Doh, silly putty, slime, they've all got these different resistances. It's really hard for kids to pull these apart, to roll them, smush them, and having those different resistances is really great for building, you know, different fine-tunedness to the muscles they're growing there. Last up on our list, I've got some different writing activities that you probably do throughout your day. You can find ways to involve the kids in this. They don't really need to be doing it on their own or anything yet, but if they're they're having the experience with you, they're going to be building that understanding of this having a meaning to it. So like, for example, you're writing your shopping list. You don't really need your 2-year-old's input in the shopping list. I'm sure they'd love to tell you to buy all all the snack foods that they want, but you can really build a shopping list without your 2-year-old's involvement. But if you have your 2-year-old involved and they see you writing down, they're going to learn, oh, my caregiver is writing. That's a cool thing to do. They're going to learn, oh, she's writing some things down, or he's writing some things down, and then later on, maybe take them to the store and pull that list back out. They'll recognize it, and they're going to slowly start to build those connections. Oh, okay, we wrote something down, and then we acted on it. Like this writing held that meaning that we used later on. Same thing with letters. Maybe you're going to write a letter, send it off in the mail, even doing the bills. You can have your kids be involved in that. Obviously, you can write a letter without your kids involved, but if they're there, seeing what you're doing, you can talk to them about what you're doing. They're going to be building this understanding that, okay, we're writing something down, and then somebody else is going to be able to kind of have a conversation with us through that written word. And you know, you can even have the kids write their own notes, even if they don't have the fine motor skills to write a letter yet. They see you writing a letter, they're going to want to do it themselves, and that's a great opportunity to practice. You just get a sticky note, a little scrap of paper, hand them a pencil, and say, oh, can you write a note to remind me to do the laundry later? You know, could be anything. The note's not really going to say do the laundry later, but that kind of activity, getting them involved like that in something you might write a note yourself for, is going to get them building that understanding that we can write something down and it will mean something and help us out later on. So, you know, these are some of the kinds of activities you can do. There's tons more out there. All you got to do is do a Google search for early literacy activities. You know, we've got this basic list here, and there are some things you can do with kids of any age. Like you can read a book to a newborn, you can read a book to a 2-year-old, you can read a book to an 8-year-old, doesn't matter. But there are some things that you might not want your little one doing quite yet. Like for example, cutting. You probably don't want to just hand over some scissors to your 1-year-old, but you can find ways to modify these things or substitute activities that are going to be more appropriate for the age level of the kid you've got. All you got to do in your Google search for early literacy activities, just throw the age of your kid in there. Early literacy activities, 1-year-old. Early literacy activities, preschooler. Whatever age kid you've got, you can pop that in the Google search and you'll get some more tailored activity suggestions. So last slide here is just our contact information for the Youth Services Department at the library. So we know a lot of you are at home building these early literacy skills with your kids, and there are some activities we do at the library that can help you in that goal. For example, we have our story time every week. Right now we're just doing that online, but you can still tune in on our Facebook and get that story time experience. Reading a book in a group setting. You know, it's really great if you're reading a book to your kid on your own, but it's also excellent for them to see other people reading too, so that they have this understanding, oh, this is something that a lot of people do. This is something that is something that people do out in the world. It's not just in my family. So definitely contact us if you have any questions about early literacy, the different activities we have going on at the library that can help you along in your goals there. And yeah, do we have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you for the tips and everything. I don't know if you want to share with them your guys' quest that's going on.
Sure, yeah, we've got this great activity going on during May. It's going to start tomorrow and it's going to run all the way through the end of May. Maybe some of you have played this classic campfire game where you know, somebody starts a story and then they tell a little bit of it, but they don't finish the story, and it's up to the next person to make the next bit of the story, and we pass on in turns like this until we've all together made a whole story. It's kind of like that, but right now we can't gather and get around a campfire, so we're going to do it virtually. If you want to participate, you got to sign up. That's because we're going to be sending the story around via email, and we'll need to know what email to send it to. So if you go on our Facebook page, under the events, you're going to look for an event called Quest, Quarantine Ultimate Email Storytelling. There's a sign up link in there so that you can give us the information we need to be able to include you in this activity. And starting tomorrow, we're going to be sending out the start of a story. The first person on the list is going to get Once Upon a Time. And their job is to add a few sentences, maybe draw some pictures, and send it back to us. And then we'll send that bigger bit of a story onto the next person who will add even more. And all through the whole month of May, the story is going to grow. And at the end of May, I'm going to read our community story in a little story time video. Should be a lot of fun. This is a great activity for kids of any age. Maybe you've got a 2-year-old not writing yet, but they can still talk to you. You can ask them what they want to add to the story and write it down for them. If they're not into adding bits to the story, they can still draw a picture to go along with it. There's a lot of ways everybody can get involved, no matter your age or ability level. This could be a lot of fun for kids all the way up to adults. So check that out. We hope you sign up.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.